Under the hood of the crossover you can only find gasoline engines. Base 1.6 with a return of 114 horsepower, H4M, is well known from other models of the brand. The motor was developed by Nissan back in 2005, HR16DE. Timing drive, chain. Since 2015, the engine has been assembled in Toyota. It has no typical faults. 2-liter unit, F4R, developing 143 horsepower, a descendant of the French's own development of the late 90s. The gas distribution mechanism is driven by a timing belt, which should be renewed every 60,000 kilometers. The engine does not cause serious problems. Only sometimes it was necessary to clean the throttle valve, change the oil seal of the phase control sensor, and the crankcase ventilation valve. Among the common problems, we can note malfunctions of the oxygen sensor, more often than not the first one. In the updated version of Captur, instead of a 2-liter aspirated, they began to use a 150 horsepower 1.33-liter turbo engine. This is a joint product of Renault, HR13 DBT, and Mercedes, M282. The gas distribution mechanism here is chain-driven. There is very little information about how the engine under the hood of the Captur has performed. In addition to a manual gearbox, 5 metric tons and 6 metric tons, an automatic one was also provided, a variator for 1.6 and an automatic for 2.0. After restyling, the machine was no longer offered. And mechanics, 5 metric tons, remained available exclusively with atmospheric 1.6. The turbocharged 1.33 TCE was only paired with a CVT. The DP8 4-band automatic is an upgraded version of the DP0 AL4 for 4WD vehicles. The box is well known for its use in many Renault, Peugeot and Citroën models. Serious problems, as a rule, do not deliver. After 100,000 kilometers, only solenoid valves may require attention. In the case of Captur, one has to take into account isolated cases of failure of the machine due to the destruction of the retaining ring. Unique incidents were recorded closer to 100,000 kilometers. Versions with 1.6 petrol used the Jatco JF015E CVT, restyled samples to pair with the turbo engine received an updated Jatco JF016E variator. Improvements have affected torque converter, hydraulics and control program. In addition, a separate cooling radiator was installed. Both variators were widely used in Renault, Nissan and Mitsubishi cars. There were problems with the variator. However, not often. With the timely renewal of the transmission fluid, there are cases when the variator did without major repairs for more than 200 to 250,000 kilometers. All-wheel drive was available only for Captur with a 2-liter engine, and after restyling, for turbocharged ones with 1.33 TCE. The all-wheel drive system with GKN electromagnetic clutch has not undergone any modernization after the update. The transmission units are reliable and usually do not cause problems. After 100,000 kilometers, sometimes only the drive shaft may require attention due to wear on the crosspieces or the outboard bearing, vibration is felt. A torsion beam is installed on the rear axle of front-wheel drive versions, and an independent multilink is installed on all-wheel drive versions. Front, McPherson. In cars with a 2-liter engine, a hydraulic power steering was used in steering, and with a base 1.6, an electro-hydraulic one. After restyling, all versions received an electromechanical amplifier. Suspension parts are quite hardy. Only the front stabilizer struts can knock after 30 to 60,000 kilometers. Stabilizer bushings run over 60 to 100,000 kilometers. When replacing, some owners were in for an interesting surprise. A number of cars since 2017 received a front anti-roll bar with vulcanized bushings. This combination involves replacing the bushings only as an assembly with the stabilizer. However, a third-party service can make the bushings removable by slightly modifying the design. Silent blocks and ball bearings of the front levers, for the most part, serve more than 100 to 150,000 kilometers. Fortunately, the design allows you to change all the elements separately. Rear suspension silent blocks are even more tenacious. Regular rear shock absorbers often began to leak at a distance of 50 to 100,000 kilometers. Front shock absorbers only occasionally reminded themselves after 100,000 kilometers. After 2 to 5 years, swelling of the paintwork on the trunk lid was found every now and then. The defect was more often observed near the chrome trim above the registration plate. The cover had to be repainted, either under warranty or on their own. Just under 80,000 vehicles built after September 2015 have been recalled. Due to a design miscalculation, there was a possibility of the lock loop breaking and the hood opening on the go. The hood hinge had to be replaced. Often in the heat, the work of the air conditioning system caused complaints. As soon as cool air began to flow into the cabin, the compressor soon turned off. The reason is a temperature sensor that prevents freezing of the evaporator. In other cases, a loss of tightness of the air conditioning tube was detected. In all-wheel drive Capturs of the first years of production, after 50 to 100,000 kilometers, the gear ring located on the outer CV joint of the rear axle shaft sometimes burst. This led to the shutdown of the ABS, ESP, and all-wheel drive systems. The ring was later reinforced and the problem did not reoccur. The original part is only available assembled with a half shaft. Third-party gear rings can be found on the internet. The pre-styling Renault Captur, no doubt, deserves attention as a relatively trouble-free car. Even the CVT does not yet cause many problems, and based on operating experience in other models, it is quite capable of lasting 200,000 kilometers. However, if you want to have a two-pedal version, it is better to pay attention to the 2-liter options with an automatic transmission. Little information has been accumulated on the restyled Captur. In the long run, the naturally aspirated 1.6-liter version seems to be more preferable.